All right, let's welcome to the Misfit Nation, Tom Kilgannon of the Freedom Alliance. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, Rich, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
I'm glad that we were linked together via a separate party and get you on here. Seeing that Oliver North actually founded this alliance here. I got to meet Ali in 2004 in Ramadi, Iraq. Great man.
That he is. Ali and I go back a long way, and he's a great friend to me, a mentor, and an inspirational leader to so many. So it's an honor to be able to lead the organization that he founded.
That's outstanding. So how about you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll go into the Freedom Alliance as well.
Sure. So, I've been with Freedom Alliance for a long time. So much of my background is associated with the organization. Prior to coming here, I was working on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress, and it was really outstanding work. But Colonel North called me and said that he wanted to talk to me about an opportunity he had, and it was one of those things that I really couldn't pass up. The organization was doing great work, and this was just a few years before 9/11. So I came over to Freedom Alliance, got started, and then 9/11 hit, and the rest, as they say, is history. We had our marching orders and our mission, and it was to care for military families and combat veterans. And at that time, it was, that day was memorable to me as it was to so many millions of Americans. I'll never forget it. Ali and I were actually on a plane together that day. And when we landed at Dulles Airport, it was eerie. Our office is just a few miles from Dulles Airport, and the world changed. And we have been doing what I think is great work ever since then.
Well, just reading the notes on the alliance, I believe you're doing amazing things since then, since its founding. And I'm sure that was just bone chilling when you came into Dulles that day. I don't know if they told you over the airline what had happened before you landed, but when you landed, I'm sure it just shook everyone that was there.
Yeah, it really did. We got just before we landed, we got an announcement from the pilot telling us that there were terrorist attacks that day. We got out into the airport, and there was just really one or two shopkeepers who were closing up. It was empty, and that was Tuesday morning. It was, I think it was about 10 or 11 o'clock when we landed, and so it was really odd. And then we got outside, and you saw people sharing taxis and taking care of each other, and a great sense of cooperation. So we just kind of went from there.
I bet. I mean, that day I was actually on the border of Iraq and Kuwait already forward when it happened. So we didn't think it was real for a while. We thought it was just some kind of drill they're doing on us. And we were yelling at each other, no, it can't be real. No one would do that to America. And then we finally sent a young soldier to the CNN tent to see what was going on. And he said, yeah, I think we're at war, Sergeant. So that brought it all to light.
Yeah, it sure did. It was, and as I said, our office is just a few miles from the airport, and we're used to planes flying over, and there weren't any for several days, and it was an odd, eerie feeling. But we had to adapt, and certainly you all in the military adapted very quickly. Our military families had big changes coming to them, and that's what we tried to impact here at Freedom Alliance, is those changes that they were going through, and how we could affect that and in a positive way, and help them through what was really a transformational time in American history for the last 20 years. And it's still going on, as you know, Rich. I know that the president announced a few weeks ago that the war in Afghanistan is over, but I've really got to challenge that declaration, because I think for you and for so many combat veterans that we work with here at Freedom Alliance, the war is not over. As long as veterans are fighting it or remembering it in their hearts and their souls, and dealing with the consequences of it, it's not over, and at least not for them. And so we've got to recognize that and understand that when it comes to sending our nation to war, and the people who fight those wars for us, we've got to be able to understand what the timeline is. It's not just basic and then deploying and taking care of that. It is the timeline is fulsome in the sense that as long as people are still recuperating, that's part of war as well.
Definitely. And that's right on point with what I see on a daily basis here. I live in a large veteran community here outside of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So you see all the different levels of where they are in their journey from post service, and like you said, the memories and dealing with PTS or TBI and everything that goes along with it, and trying to keep their family unit together as they move forward. And it's a battle for many men and women that have served now.
Yeah, it really is the emotional injury that goes along with it, the moral injury, and that's really what we're dealing with, a lot of that right now, and sponsoring a lot of hunting and fishing activities for veterans, bringing them together for the purpose of them being in each other's company, so that they can be accountable to one another, speak to one another, and help each other out, because those are the kinds of things that the VA is just not really very good at addressing. The VA it's a big organization. It's a conveyor belt, if you will, an assembly line, and there are a lot of things that they can do and do well. But dealing with the very personal, emotional issues that are associated with with combat and the aftermath, that takes a lot of personalized attention, and that's one of the things that we're addressing quite a bit here at Freedom Alliance.
So tell us a little bit about it. Did the mission of the Freedom Alliance change after 9/11, or was it always the same? Or did you adapt as you've seen the need over the last 20 years?
Yeah, we've always been an organization that has been helping out military families, but obviously 9/11 helped us to change that. The organization was founded at the time of the first Gulf War in 1990.
Okay.
So we had a number of programs in place, but as you know, that war was it was over in quick fashion, and it was not in the headlines for a very long period of time. So the founding of the organization and that event took place at basically the same time. So it was difficult to sustain the programmatic activity, and so for the next 10 years, we went through some different types of programming, and then when 9/11 came, we went back to the programs that were put in place back in 1990 and dusted them off and adapted them to what the new situation required. And I would say that over the last 20 years, we have continued to do that, where we have tried to make sure that we are giving to veterans and families what they need at that time. The needs of troops who were deployed in 2001 to 2005 were very different than what the needs were in 2010 to 2015. And so we were constantly doing after action and taking a look at what we were able to provide and what the troops needed, and continue to update our menu of activities and offerings.
You're definitely right that it did change from the early days of this conflict till now, even the 10 and 12. I was in Afghanistan 10, 11, and 12, and Iraq early on, 03, 01, 03, and 04. So that time period, the one call a week or whatever home, and maybe you got some mail. Then 10, 11, 12 was kind of a different animal, because they had the burner phones over there. You can buy one of them and call home whenever you want. And there was like internet cafes everywhere, Burger Kings on the big bases. So it was kind of a different world at that time. And like you said, the need of the troop on the ground definitely changed at that point to something that higher needs than the lower ankle biter needs from early on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I remember in the early years, we were collecting all kinds of phone cards and sending them over, and then the communications, adapted, and then later on, a lot of our work was conducted through the hospitals, through Walter Reed, through BAMC, through the Naval Hospital in San Diego, and so many others, and then it became the rehab centers. And as you know, when a service member comes home and he's wounded and he's in one of those environments, whether it's the hospital or the rehab center, he has around him a natural community of support. He's got doctors and nurses and counselors and other veterans and family members. But what we started to see was, as service members were leaving those environments and going back home to their actual houses and into their communities, they might be the only one in the community, or one of very few, were dealing with the kinds of circumstances they were, whether that was an amputation or internal injuries or emotional injuries. And so the challenge for organizations like ours at Freedom Alliance was to get them out of their home and back into an environment where they had around them other veterans. And that's where we began doing hunting and fishing trips, skiing, other outdoor activities, so that we could create that environment of support where they are able to just be with one another and help each other out. And so we're doing a lot of that. Dozens of events are taking place each year, Rich, where we are bringing those veterans together. We just finished up an event on the Rogue River in Oregon.
Wow.
We had a big gathering of veterans with our partners at War Heroes on Water. That's in Southern California, where we bring the boating community together. And we had almost 4 dozen yacht owners who give their boats and allow the veterans to, or not allow, but take them out for 3 or 4 days of fishing. And,
Wow.
when you're out there on the Pacific Ocean, you're catching fish here and there, but there's also a lot of downtime. And during that downtime, a lot of great conversation takes place. So that's where we started bringing veterans together. And as we realized through some of these events that the civilian community has a lot to offer to this healing process as well. And when you get caring, committed, knowledgeable civilians who are willing to give of their time to listen to veterans, to talk with them, to understand, that really goes a long way, because I feel that the veteran understands there are people out there who care about me, and it goes beyond just my family. And that I have an obligation of sorts to other veterans to be an example of somebody who can heal and get through this. And we have seen tremendous success through our different kinds of events. And it is, I never served. I'm a civilian. And so for me, this has been extraordinarily rewarding, because I have seen the impact that our team here at Freedom Alliance has had on people. I've seen lives change. I've seen lives saved. I've seen veterans go on to be leaders and to hold others accountable and show them how they can get over the hurdles and beat these demons that follow veterans home from the battlefield. And it's just been an extraordinary journey for me as a civilian to see it, to be a part of it, and to do just a little bit to help out.
It's probably very rewarding to your inner soul to see that progress that veterans are able to make after going through your programs. And on their side, when they get to go on these trips, it builds their camaraderie. And then they, like you said, they become leaders of their own community within the veteran sphere. And that finds that sense of purpose that we all kind of lose when we take them boots off the last time. You take the boots off, you run into a wall. What do I do with my hands now? I don't know what I'm doing. And
That's
you
right.
kind of lose that purpose. And it's good to find a tribe to go back to and do stuff with.
Yeah, it certainly is. And for those, your audience is probably military heavy, but for those civilians who are watching and maybe trying to understand what we're talking about when we talk about the demons or the emotional injuries, I describe it this way. There's that scene in the movie American Sniper with Chris Kyle where he's on the rooftop and little boy picks up the RPG launcher, and so Chris is faced, and in the movie it's Chris, but this same decision, the same scenario is played out for thousands and thousands of veterans, where they see an innocent child, an innocent woman who has been strapped with dynamite or picks up an RPG launcher. And so now the American is faced with this impossible decision. You can even look more recently as we were leaving Afghanistan, and these Afghan women are sending their babies over the fence line to these Marines who are taking it. Now put yourself in the boots of that Marine who is faced with a decision. Do I take this child, this innocent child, from this mother who is just trying to get this child to safety? And if I accept this child and hand it off to another Marine, how do I know where it goes? Or if I give it back, what's going to happen to it? And so think about the guilt or the snap decision that has to be made, the impossible situation that they are put in. And those are the kinds of circumstances that play out in their minds, in their hearts, in their souls for many years to come, trying to figure out, did I make the right choice? Why was I put in this decision? Why did I have to be the one who did that? And it is very difficult. And so veterans are struggling with God, with their sense of purpose, and coming back to a society that doesn't fully understand what they've been through, what they've had to do, the kinds of choices they've had to make. And we try to put them in positions where they're doing data entry or things like that, and they lose that sense of purpose. So at Freedom Alliance, when we're able to get veterans and reconnect them with that purpose, it's a wonderful thing to see them excited again, and to know that this person with such a big heart and so many skills and talents is channeling it toward a purpose that they believe in.
And that's absolutely correct. And that split second decision, that's something that doesn't translate into a lot of other things in life. When you're behind the scope or on a patrol and you're with that task and purpose in mind, now, do I do X to stop the third order effect of Y happening? And when you come home and you try to explain it to someone who's never been in that situation, oh, I would have done this, this, and this because I would have thought it through. You don't have that time to think it through. It's either you or that person at that time, and it's something like you said. We have to live with it for the rest of our lives, or is the rest of the time that we have it sitting in our brain housing unit for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and so what we do is, we get veterans around the campfire, around the conference room table, and just talk it out. And I think a lot of times being able to just say it, explain it, have others listen who have had similar experiences is really cathartic. It is helpful to unburden themselves of this. And we're very careful about the civilians we bring into this equation. But when they are there, we're asking civilians to help carry that burden as well, and for veterans to understand that we as civilians had our time back here. We didn't have to carry those kinds of burdens, but we want to do our part now to help you through it. And it's something that we've got to come to understand a whole lot better. And I think a lot of people, I describe this, Rich, as emotional injury or moral injury. And I do that because I really feel that what a lot of veterans are going through, it's an issue of the heart and an issue of the soul, not so much an issue of the mind, although that's a part of it. And while it's often described as mental health, I think that's a part of it, but I think the more complete understanding of it is emotion and faith, and I think that's something we've got to come to understand, both in the civilian and in the veteran community.
Definitely, it comes down to mind, body, and soul. You have to have solid on each one of them in order to keep moving forward and keep yourself from going into the darkness or having the demons get the better of you as you try to battle through it. And I mean, this time of year is always going to be the hardest for many of the veterans because it goes into this holiday slide and they think, why am I here and not my buddy? Or why did I not get hit that day and why did he get hit and he lost his leg? I should be like him right now. And that weighs heavy on many people's heads. And that's something that you have to get that faith going. You got to keep your mind straight. You got to try to take care of your body as best as possible. What's left of it after you got beat up in the military for X amount of years. That body is a temple when you came in at 18 years old, but as you grow older, it's kind of breaks down like a car. And then you have to have soul. You have to have some kind of faith balance in there to help you get to the right things in life.
Yeah, that's right. And we talked about Afghanistan earlier and our exit from Afghanistan. I know a lot of veterans are struggling with that, but what I would offer to them is, if you served in Afghanistan, you did your job and you did it well, and you really did make a difference. And there are people in that country who are alive today. There are people who have their fingers and their toes and their tongues because you were there to help them out. There are women who have a chance and opportunity, young girls who are able to get an education or at least part of one because you were there. And the way we left Afghanistan, I think, it was a disgrace, and it's a stain on our nation. But that has nothing to do with the individual service member. Those Marines and soldiers who were on the ground during those weeks performed admirably. And so, if we're speaking to the veteran who is afflicted by that, and as you know, there are many who are, you need to understand that you did your job and you did it well. When you go over there, you are America's finest diplomats. You are people that we are proud of. The nation is proud of you. Where we have a problem, where we're going to direct our challenge, is toward the officials in Washington who made those kinds of decisions in the way that they did. And there is a separation there. And we can look at one in a way that we want a whole lot more from those people who made those kinds of decisions, while at the same time looking at the Marine or the soldier, the service member on the ground, and having the highest regard and the greatest degree of admiration for them, because that's where we are. And that's where the public is. And so for any veteran listening to this conversation, Rich, I want you to know that there is tremendous support among the public for you. Please believe that. Please know that. Be proud of your service and know that you made a difference. And you really did, because depending on when you deployed, you did your job. If you deployed in those early years, like I think you said you were over there in the early years, your job was to get the Taliban and get Al Qaeda, and you did it. And if you deployed in later years, it was to build up the Afghan army. And if you deployed after that, it might have been more of a humanitarian mission and working to make it safer for women and girls. And tremendous progress was made in all of those. But depending on when you deployed, you might have just viewed it a little bit differently, and you had a different goal to reach.
Right. And like I told a lot of my veterans in my sphere, we did our job, like you're saying. We did our job while we were there. We were given a mission statement, and we handled that mission. Each time we went, we handled that mission, and we came home. We passed the baton to the next unit. We knew this would end at some point. We couldn't stay there forever. But we also knew that it shouldn't end abruptly, and that kind of left us a sting for a lot of guys and gals. And then when the 13 got taken out, that really hurt many veterans' hearts right there, when those 13 were killed by the suicide bomber in the complex attack. So that I think added to the pain for a lot of the veterans, and they started questioning their worth, like you're saying, that they didn't really do anything worthwhile there. They just have to understand, like you're saying, that it was bigger than us while we're over there. We did our jobs, and now we have to go back to understanding that what we did was great.
That's absolutely right. And while we're at it, we have to send a message to elected officials, people in Washington, those who are in charge of making these kinds of decisions, that you've got to figure it out too. We've got to get to a point as a nation where we are together on what our purpose is when we send young men and women overseas. What are the limits of our ability as a country to affect change in other nations, and what do we want to accomplish? And so I think we need more robust debate in Congress. We need healthy dissent. We need people who are able to have these kinds of conversations and think about what's going to come. I know that at the start of this, there was talk about casualties and injuries, and a lot of that was brushed under the table and said, well, let's not worry about any of that. Well, we need to worry about it, because right now we've got tens of thousands who have come home who are dealing with both physical and emotional injuries that we need to take care of. And as I said, this war should not be considered over until we're able to care for them to the best of our ability. And the other thing is, we have about 7,000 service members who never made it home. And one of the things we do here, Rich, at Freedom Alliance is we try to remember their sacrifice and help out their families, by providing college scholarships to their children. We just passed a big milestone here where we have now awarded more than $20 million in college scholarships to 2,000 students, each of whom is the son or daughter of an American hero. That's something we're proud of. We wish we did not have to do it, but given the circumstances, we want to make sure that each of those kids understands through this scholarship that represents it, that their parents' sacrifice will never be forgotten by a grateful nation.
I was just about to ask you about that milestone, and you beat me to it. So I mean, that's awesome. And how do they apply for it, or does someone have to nominate them to be awarded the scholarship, or do they have to just go to your website? How do they do that?
Yeah, they just need to be eligible for it, and the way they become eligible is their parent was killed or permanently disabled in military service. So they can go to our website. There's an application there, freedomalliance.org, and they fill out the application. We'll take a look at it, and they're going to obviously provide some paperwork, DD-214s or veterans paperwork, or showing that they lost their parent. And we'll take a look at that, and then we get them the scholarship. Back in 2001, I think we had 12 students on scholarship, and now we've got, this year we'll have 600 students on scholarship. We're giving out over almost $2.5 million this year alone. So, what we're trying to do is to make sure that these kids have an opportunity. Every parent wants a college education or a better opportunity for their kids, and military parents are no different. But they go overseas, they make these tremendous sacrifices, and we want to show our appreciation through caring for their kids. And Rich, I'll tell you, it's a very similar dynamic among our college students who receive these scholarships that there is to the veterans. If you had a parent who was killed in Afghanistan or Iraq, chances are you don't know in your high school or your college somebody else who's like that. So what we do at Freedom Alliance is bring them together. We have retreats and events where they can get together and know each other. And I'll tell you that friendships form instantaneously because they have that tragic circumstance as a commonality.
The tragic bond that brings them together also makes them friends for life almost at that point, once they get to actually see each other and talk to each other.
Yeah, it really does. It is wonderful to see the friendships that develop, and these kids they're terrific. They have a lot of reasons to be angry at their country. They have a lot of reasons to be down, but I'd say each one of them is optimistic. They love their country. They're proud of their parents' service. They look forward to the opportunity to get out and get on a stage and speak to, whether it's 10 people or 100 or 500 people, about their dad, or in some cases their mom. Moms are sacrificing too now, and they want to tell about their parent and what their service was like and why they joined the military and what they as a military brat learned from those sacrifices and that service. So those are the kinds of opportunities that we're providing at Freedom Alliance, in addition to the scholarship, is bring them together, help them meet one another, and form those friendships where they can be mentors to one another and hold each other accountable.
That's outstanding. And the veterans that go on the like hunting trips and such, they do the same thing, go through the website, and there's an application for them as well.
Absolutely. Through freedomalliance.org, there's an application, fill it out. And we've got a number of, whether it's hunting or fishing trips, that's part of what we do. We're also giving away all-terrain wheelchairs so that amputees can participate in those kinds of activities. We have some vehicles that we give away. We've done a few mortgage-free homes. We also have retreats for married couples because the dynamics there. And so we're trying to help out in a variety of different ways. So when somebody comes to us, it is not unusual that we'll spend several years with them in helping them out at different stages of their rehabilitation, because we've got different programs to offer.
It's outstanding, Tom. I know you're short on time, and you're a busy day, busy man. So it's been great chatting with you, and anything you need from me in the future, let me know. I'll help you out.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for your service, and God bless to all who are listening and all that you've done for our country.
Appreciate you, Tom. Have a good day.
Thank you.